Hi guys. So with this flow chart, we're going to talk about the steps of cellular respiration, and which steps occur depends on the presence or absence of oxygen. So with cellular respiration, remember that we are breathing in oxygen and eating glucose, C6H12O6, in order to get energy out of that sugar because it's carbohydrate, provides us with quick energy. So since we're eating glucose, the very first step actually sounds like glucose that we're going to put in here. So it's the breaking down of glucose, and that's called glycolysis. Glyco for glucose, and this word lysis means to break, and we've seen that a couple of times already, like with lysosomes, which is the organelle that breaks things down or digests them. So glycolysis literally is the breaking of glucose. So we first start breaking down that glucose, and then the next step is dependent on the presence or absence of oxygen. So if we go around this side where it says aerobic, it sounds like air, right? So what's in the air that we suck into our face? Oxygen. So if it's aerobic, that means oxygen is present, okay? If oxygen is present, we go to the next step after glycolysis, and that is the Krebs cycle. All right, so remember cycles are circular, so is the Krebs cycle. We talked about in photosynthesis the Calvin cycle or the dark reactions. Well, we have a different cycle in cellular respiration. From the Krebs cycle, we go into what is called the ETC or electron transport chain. All right, this is where your ATP is going to be made in large quantities. And remember, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, that is our energy molecule. So when you go down this path, when you're breathing in oxygen, what you end up making is 38 ATPs molecules, which sounds pretty good. This is about 66% efficient. That's what we talked about in our notes, because you don't actually break every single bond. You just break a lot of them because you breathe out the water and carbon dioxide. Those molecules still have bonds in them. So you can't get 100%, but 66 is pretty good. So the opposite of aerobic is anaerobic. When you put an in front of it, it means not, right? So this means not using oxygen or no oxygen. All right. And there's another word for this process when you're doing this with no oxygen, and that is called fermentation. And we talked about in lecture a little bit about the fermentation process of producing wine. This is anaerobic because you're putting it in the barrel and you seal the barrel so there's no oxygen, and then the bacteria in there ferment the grapes to make wine. So when we have fermentation, we have two kinds of products that are made. We have, if you are bacteria, you are making ethyl alcohol. Right, ethyl alcohol. So ethyl alcohol is what is produced in the wine caskets there when you're going to make your wine. Now, if you're an animal cell, this is when you produce lactic acid. That's when you're feeling the burn when you're working out. Okay, it's lactic acid building up in your muscles. Now, because there's no oxygen, we're not going through the Krebs cycle and the ETC. We're not making very much energy. And actually, the energy we made actually came from glycolysis, and you're not getting much of anything from these. So the energy yield, you only get 2 ATP per molecule of glucose, which is not very good considering how many you make over here when you have oxygen. All right, this is only 3.5% efficient, which is not very good, and that makes that 66 look much better. So hopefully this flow chart helps you to go through the steps of glycolysis, either with oxygen or without oxygen. All right, make sure you fill out your own copy and turn it into Blackboard to get some points. Bye, guys.